Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Ian Kavat. It's a weapon not before seen in the Indo-Pacific, and the US Army is calling it a landmark in regional capacity. This American missile launcher sends a signal the US can put offensive weaponry well within striking distance of Chinese installations in the South China Sea, China proper, and along the Taiwan Strait, analysts say. Beijing says its presence increases, quote, misjudgment and miscalculation, and that Washington is seeking, quote, unilateral advantage. Joining us to discuss this are Ting-shen, Institute for National Defense and Security Research Deputy Chief Executive Officer, and Sherwin E, de la Salle University Political Science and Development Studies Associate Professor. A very warm welcome to both of you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you.
General Lee, so you were in the Philippines for Balikatan. Can you tell us, about this Typhon? What does it do?
Oh, this is very important. The Typhon weapon system, this is the first time U.S. force deployer in this area. Is a sophisticated and more advanced weapon in here. The purpose deploy in this area is to deter and give the message to PRC, PLA to tell them we have the very powerful advanced weapon in here and very, very advanced, include the Tomahawk and SM-6.
Okay, so Tomahawk is 1,600 kilometers.
Oh, the ER can move longer. So the cover average not only in the North Luzon, but also in Taiwan Strait and South Sea, and we call the Philippine West Sea.
Yes.
So the Typhon system includes 4 different parts. This is very important. First one is the advanced radar systems. They can lock on and track. Second, we call this is weapon system, ICC, and combat information system.
Right.
Third is the missile. They have the different missile can launch. The fourth one is the launcher system, mid-range and long range.
Ah.
This is a very advanced.
So it's not just mid-range.
This is the first time deployer in this area. We believe, just like we have a lesson learned from the Ukraine. Ukraine, they have the surface-to-surface hit the Russian, the flagship Moscow. Just only 2 surface-to-surface missile hit and sink. This is a very, very useful missile. So we believe the U.S. force deployed in North Luzon coverage all the force island chain in South, including Taiwan and South China Sea.
Right.
This is a signal. The main purpose is to deliver and prevent and would like to peaceful in this area. Very, very important.
Okay, Professor Ona, China's reaction, and we heard a bit at the beginning, is saying that U.S. is seeking unilateral advantage. What does that mean?
Well, I guess the general's point that these new systems are all for deterrence is quite correct. But we must take Beijing's pronouncements with a grain of salt, because when they say that this is for a unilateral advantage, actually the United States is playing catch-up when it comes to deployment of these medium-range systems. The PLA rocket force, for instance, can boast of a huge number of cruise missiles and anti-ship missiles. And, by showing this, the United States is just saying that, we can also deploy our own systems.
So actually, China has the unilateral advantage.
That is correct.
And then the U.S. and its allies and the Philippines.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in this region.
Strategy change. Strategy message is changed. So here they deploy in North Luzon, cover out more distance.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're saying about everything up to the first island chain, or including the first island chain,
yes.
that's tremendous.
Tremendous, yeah.
General Lee, so not only Typhon was used for the first time Balikatan, but also HIMARS and also a Korean-built Sea Star ship. Can you tell us a bit about how HIMARS was used?
First of all, we want to see they have the original enhanced Philippine Armed Forces capability. The HIMARS is high mobile artillery and rocket systems. This is include different rocket and missile. But the Sea Star is the anti-ship missile.
Right.
From ship to ship anti-missile. This is a career arm sales to the Philippines. Both of them is very useful and advanced. But HIMARS can carry 6 rocket and 1 missile together. But this is the shoot. HIMARS shoot is cover the surface. It's the one surface, not only one target. It's a shield and a surface. This is very, very preempted. Yeah.
Right. And this is why Ukraine wanted HIMARS.
Yes, HIMARS is a very good weapon in this area. But more important is the HIMARS easy to mobile, can move. They are the container cargo move. They can shoot and hide. It's different. You shoot, you will get your target to understand your location. They will shoot you. The HIMARS, you shoot and mobile to hide and change the position. But the Sea Star is the subsonic ship-to-ship, is a guidance and launch high and could maybe close to the sea level. We call the sea skimming to continue to track the GPS locking. And finally, they will open their seeker and homing to target. Very, very advanced weapon.
Right.
Both of them good for Philippine defense.
Okay. So, Professor Ona, if you can, generally has taken us through how these work. How were they actually used in the drills in Balikatan?
Well, they were used in the live fire exercises. They are fictitious targets, and the HIMARS were used as standoff weapon, meaning it is a long-range weapon that simulate or an attack or towards a target. The Sea Star missile system is an anti-ship missile, as General Lee pointed out. It was bought by the Philippines through its modernization program, and it armed some of our new frigates. Yeah. And for the Balikatan, for this iteration, it was used as part of the sinking exercise. So there was this decommissioned ship, Philippine Navy ship, that was sunk using this missile system.
Oh, that's good. From the surface to surface hit.
Yeah, it's from ship to ship.
Very accurate hit.
Yeah, from our frigate and hitting the decommissioned ship.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So for more about the Balikatan exercises, we spoke to Lucio Pitlo III, a foreign policy and security analyst from Asia-Pacific Pathways to Progress Foundation. I began by asking which of this year's exercises were related to Taiwan.
So the exercise areas seem to suggest a strong linkage between the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. So exercise areas includes parts of northern Luzon. There will be a sinking exercise that will take place off Ilocos Norte, the home province of President Marcos. And of course, Batanes is also an exercise area. The northern Luzon, including Batanes, of course, is opposite of Taiwan. And so I think many analysts are looking at this year's iteration of the Balikatan as also a signal of the interest of the Philippines to expand its capacity and to work with allies and partners interoperability-wise in order to respond to regional contingencies, whether in the regional hotspots like the Taiwan Strait and also the South China Sea.
If that's the case, then this is actually a huge development for the Philippines, which has up to now been quite firm that it would not get involved.
From the Philippine sides and also from the alliance side, there's also, of course, the willingness of the country to take part in this security burden sharing in order to, of course, support the status quo, to try to deter any attempts to alter the status quo through force, intimidation, or coercion. So I think the exercise areas, the types of weapons involved, the activities in the exercise for this year's Balikatan all point to, of course, the Philippines' willingness to take part in responding to regional contingencies. And Taiwan Strait is certainly one of them.
Marcos Jr. in April had said that he would invoke the treaty if there was a death of a serviceman. How close do you think we are getting to that red line?
I think we're dangerously getting into that. Of course, in the past, this has been an issue between the Philippines and the U.S. in terms of trying to clarify when, what scenario, or under what conditions can the MDT be invoked. There is already that recognition that this gray zone operations has long been effectively used by Beijing to push the envelope and, of course, to try to change facts on the ground to create a new normal. And so I think the onus now is on how the alliance will respond. So certainly if they lower the threshold to activate the MDT, of course, there's also a risk that one incident might spark a conflict. But at the same time, if the alliance will remain reactive to the situation, then of course there is that uh, potential for China to have this escalation dominance, to be able to dictate the terms.
That was Lucio Pitlo III speaking to me from Manila earlier. This year's exercises were also remarkable in that for the first time they took place outside Manila's 12 nautical mile territorial sea and deep into the Philippine exclusive economic zone, importantly well into Beijing's 9-dash line that it claims as exclusively its own territorial waters. General Lee, let me come to you first. Let's talk about some of these Balikatan new drills outside the 12 nautical mile territorial seas and perhaps even those based at the EDCA sites.
But first of all, I want to mention about this exercise is Northern Luzon. We call the Kakayang and Iloilo, right? Iloilo and Lawang. And this is most close is the Bataan. Bataan is much closer in Taiwan. So
it's only 100.
Only 200 maybe.
Almost 200.
Only 200. But most close is within 100, the small island.
Right.
Yeah. But more important is the 9 military bases is, we call the EDCA, is the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, right? You will find this 9 military base is located on the North Luzon and west of the Philippine territory. What the purpose? Is to deter the China invasion and deter China military expansion. So this you see the best in here for the military perspective is the easy to mobile, easy to faster to transport, and effective. This is the 3 very important for this base. And you will find on the shoulder to shoulder, we call the Balikatan, the U.S. and the Philippines, both of them and played the exercise in North Luzon and Palawan. So this means that they try to use the more exercise like both of the military cooperation, and we call the collective defense.
Professor Ona, General Lee has just explained that focus very much on northern Luzon as well as western to cover Palawan, South China Sea, but also towards Taiwan Strait. What you heard me there ask Lucio, just say, well, this seems to be a shift in stance in that it is now seems to be more out in the open.
Well, the expanded EDCA sites and the unprecedented operations in our economic zones would go to show you that, for instance, the Philippines is enforcing its maritime claims and its allies are supporting it, right? So it sends a strong message to whoever claims the whole ocean that, these claims are bogus, they're outrageous, and they're not recognized under international law. And I think the way they're planning the scenarios in the Balikatan exercises, I think it's a strong signal that, it depends on, of course, political decisions or authorities, but it sends a strong signal that, militarily, we can prepare for any eventuality, either it be in the South China Sea or West Philippine Sea or in the Taiwan Strait.
Okay, so give me some detail then. Give me some detail about some of the actual scenarios or drills that were practiced.
Of course, I've said earlier, a sinking exercise. So we use, for example, HIMARS and our Sea Star missiles to sink a decommissioned ship. Prior to the start of Balikatan, there was a joint patrol between Australia, the United States, and the Philippines. So we did a joint patrol in our exclusive economic zone. And before the start of Balikatan, we also had what we call the Cope Thunder exercise. It's an Air Force exercise that simulated, for example, air interdiction, control of Philippine airspace, the use of air power for ground attack. So if you put this together, you will see that, of course, these exercises, although not really meant to target a specific nation, but it is really something that prepares all the countries involved for any contingency.
I want to mention about not only the hard weapon, But this Balikatan this time also is soft power also, just like the cyber. They training the cyber.
Yeah.
Cyber is the all around in the world, not only the military, all society, all different country. This time, the Balikatan also training the cyber exercise. Not only the Philippines and US, include the Australia, right? The French also join. Other have the 17 observer country together to use this one Balikatan. So this is meaningful. More important is much close to Taiwan.
Okay. Professor Ona, so during Balikatan, there was the unfortunate incident where Chinese Coast Guard, a vessel essentially attacked a Philippine Coast Guard vessel with water cannon. Do you see that as an escalation? I mean, if we look at it in terms of the Mutual Defense Treaty between the US and the Philippines, that very clearly says an armed attack on any public vessel as well.
Of course, it's an escalation, but it's still, it's still ambiguous because the weapon used was supposedly a non-lethal weapon. But if you if you see the footage, see the videos, the use of these weapons, non-lethal weapons, are really very destructive. And the way they targeted, for instance, the radar system, the communication systems of our ships, it's meant to disable the ship. And there was this footage that they even targeted our flag. So that caused a lot of outrage in the Philippines. And of course, our president has said that it's better to have restraint at this point. But I think in his previous announcements that he said that a death of a Filipino serviceman or woman will trigger the invocation of the Mutual Defense Treaty. I think that's very clear from our end.
Okay. If I can also ask you, so the Chinese embassy in the Philippines is claiming that the Secretaries of Defense and National Security agreed to a new model surrounding Second Thomas Shoal. Now, both men have rejected that outright. Guibo Tidoro called it devious machination, and Eduardo Ano called it absolutely absurd, ludicrous, and preposterous. So what exactly is China doing?
From our end, this is what Secretary Tidoro called as the weapons of mass deception. This is part of China's disinformation campaign against the Philippines. And as part of its playbook, it tends to, deceive people by shifting the blame or trying to divert public attention into much important issues. And obviously, the way the Chinese embassy released this statement, it is really meant to divert public attention. I guess the water cannon incident that happened a few days back really gave them a bad press. And I think this was one of the ways on how they can divert public attention.
Absolutely. General Lee.
But I want to mention that before is the Balikatan again, is these two, when the exercise in this area, so huge power in exercise in the water, but the China, the CCP and PLA Navy also monitor in this area. So just like the Sherwin, he mentioned about when the exercise in this area, the China vessel here inside the area to monitor, it is too close. Too close is to have the two factors. One is the miscalculation, misunderstanding. The second one is, I believe, the deep confrontation in this area. So you mentioned is that I try to say again, when any kind the exercise, the third party in this area, they will get more dangerous. So he want to monitor. So the China Navy, also Coast Guard, will monitor the exercise Balikatan. But that is very, very dangerous. Yeah.
Okay. Professor Ona, so there has been a debate in the Philippines about, whether these military exercises kind of make the West Philippine Sea safer or more dangerous. And, there have been, on one side, sort of saying, well, actually, the goal of these is simply about strengthening military cooperation, interoperability. It's not necessarily to respond to or to stop China's aggressions. In this sort of debate, what's your view? Is it actually about saying whether either side is escalating the tensions?
Well, to your question, I think it's a bit of all. the factors that you've mentioned. Like, for instance, of course, China would claim that the Balikatan exercise, especially in our economic zones, the maritime zones, will escalate tensions. But if you ask the Philippines, for instance, it's simply us enforcing our rights. That's how we look at it. Now, of course, since it has a military component, of course, the military will be much concerned with interoperability, especially when you're operating with, different armed forces, different services. Even the Coast Guard, the Philippine Coast Guard, and our national police are involved in the exercise. So interoperability is crucial in these types of exercises. But in the end, I may say that this will be something that will be decided politically, not by military. The military is there just to, the exercises are there just to say that we are preparing for contingencies. But at the end of the day, it will be the political leaders who will express that decision.
Okay, General Lee.
I want to mention about, just like Sherwin mentioned, and the different country cooperation exercise in this area, just like the mighty country together, is a collective defense. This is also a signal to tell the others, don't provoke conflict in this area. And just like the military exercise also is a kind of the deter and prevention conflict in this area. So mutual defense and collective defense in this area is much, much important. Even different side of the society debate. But I think exercise is kind of the signal.
Okay, so this is a means to respond. It is responding to China.
Yes.
Yeah, because we heard there that Lucio Pitlow said that the onus now is on the alliance to respond, but in essence, they have responded, isn't it, with this Balikatan,
That's
the
right.
largest,
Yeah.
the largest ever.
Yeah.
General Lee, let me ask you. So the Philippines has sought clarification on a number of times with the US about the Mutual Defense Treaty, even going back to obviously since Marcos Senior's time. Do you consider that the language of this document is too ambiguous, and therefore does it give China too much room for its grey zone activity?
So we love to very clear, the action very clear. But first of all, I want to mention about the gray zone. The gray zone has a different kind of the gray zone, include economy and military drill and cyber attack and the Coast Guard, water cannon also is the kind of the gray zone. But how to do enhance together to stop the gray zone? This is the main purpose. Just like the Chinese Coast Guard in the second Taiwan show, they are in there, and you different clan, but you say this area is belong to yourself, but they say this area is belong to there. So how to do more? Just like ambiguity is much different, but exercise is much clear. So mutual defense, you and me and you together work together. We have the cooperation and exercise. I believe this is very clear, not ambiguity.
Professor Ona, there are some on the other side of the debate who, like General Lee had mentioned, say that ambiguity is very important because we do not want to give China the red line, which it can then push up against. What's your view?
Right, I think General Lee made a great point a while ago when he said that this is responding to gray zone. And gray zone is a relatively new concept, right, in warfare. And if you look at the Mutual Defense Treaty, it is a 1950s treaty. And it was a Cold War treaty designed for, conventional war, between the United States and, of course, some of the world powers back then. But now we are confronted with this new type of aggression, which is very ambiguous and indirect and below the threshold of armed conflict. So now, what you're seeing in Balikatan, or even when people talk about the Mutual Defense Treaty, they're trying really to address some of the nuance of a gray zone warfare to fit some of the existing agreements. To give you to have a complete picture of this, perhaps you can refer to, for instance, the the recently concluded trilateral agreement between Tokyo, Manila, and Washington. That agreement was really for addressing gray zone activities in our maritime zones. So mutual defense treaty is there. It's there for a conventional attack.
General Lee, very final question. So Samuel Paparo, who is the new Indo-PACOM leader, okay, replaces John Aquilino.
Yeah.
He's actually said that China's actions go beyond this standard grey zone. You said there's different levels of grey zone.
Yeah.
And he quoted at that ceremony, the handover ceremony, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, General Romeo Brawner, who says that China's actions are ICAD, okay, which is illegal, coercive, aggressive, and deceptive. So they don't want to call it grey zone anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
I think due to the Chief of General Staff of the Philippines and the new Indo-PACOM, they are for understand the CCP, PLA, they have the new method, new tactics, and new military activity and behavior. So they are, according to, they use the ICAD is we define the new threat. So should be everybody and together more understand the new threat. So our tactics and exercise and defense treaty should be re-examined to cope with the new threat.
Okay, we're going to have to end it there. Thank you so much, General
Okay, thank
Lee
you.
Ting-shen
This
and
is new.
Sherwin E. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining
Thank you
Taiwan
very
Talks
much.
today.
Thank
If you
you.
liked our show, please search for us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching the show today.